And let's hope this works.
Did it work? Did it work? Did it work? Who's first?
Let us see.
Who's on first?
Let us entertain you.
Let us entertain you. Tra-la-la-la-la, tra-la-la. How do you guys like that full moon? Boom.
Here we go. I just got a notification that we are online.
Oh, we are on live.
But
look there, Xenomorph. Robbie. Hi, guys. Oh, inspire me. Hello. Great to see you. Awesome.
So, guys, we just decided, maybe I haven't even told Cindy that I just decided we're going to work our ass off till we drop.
Wow.
Until we...
I don't know, until we explode or drop
until we
or
explode,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to work even more. We're doubling down.
Yeah.
Screw the system. They don't like to hear from us, so we're going to push it more.
Yeah, that'll work. That'll work.
Okay, Vildan, Insidious Phasma.
Great to see
Robbie,
you.
of course. I mean, it's just great to see all you guys.
Carolina Dream.
One of the first messages we got today was from Jen, Xenomorphette, for everybody out there. And she was just sharing how all of a sudden there was flooding over in her town. Unexpected. Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy. We love you too, Kurt. Good to see you in the house. Yeah, it's just crazy. Can we talk some sanity into the global leaders? Well, the reality is they're just doing their job. Yep. But they don't work for us. None of them work for humanity. That's the reality. And it should be apparent by now. Unfortunately, again, the world's IQ has been lowered on purpose, and we don't say that in a mean way. It's just a fact. A lot of people can't comprehend what's happening around them. They just don't understand. I think it was Mama Jan. Somebody sent us a link to somebody that was doing a lot similar to what we do. And one person in the comments said, "Can you explain this to me in plain language? I don't understand what you mean." It's like, I thought that he spoke very plainly. I thought it was pretty clear that everything has been orchestrated. Everything we're watching is just simply, now is the time where they're manifesting that which they've planned to manifest for a long time. I mean, seriously, hundreds of years, really.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. They're just up in the ante. They're getting people more and more concerned, as they should be. I don't think we should ignore the headlines that are going on, and it's a reality. They're planning to do something to us, because how do we know? Look to history, and they can't hide the mud floods enough. They cannot hide Tataria enough. They cannot hide what they have done in the past. So I think it would be, I don't know, a little foolish to think we're comfortable, but at the same time, you don't want to live in so much fear that you don't live life.
No. And we first talked today, first video we did went up on HEEARTS, and it's about the greatest red pill of them all. And what is consciousness? What exactly is reality? Going into that deeper dive. Again, we encourage everybody, please make sure that you're subscribed to HEEARTS as well. That's the newest channel. And, it's just a lot of people, unfortunately, in this world, they just don't question things. And, while none of us believe anything we see, we always weigh what we see. When it comes to MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, any of these big sources, any source at all, we should weigh everything. Even those YouTubers we love, still, anybody could make a mistake. Anybody could be tricked or deceived by the system if you're not keeping your feelers up all the time, if you're not working every single day on sharpening your spiritual connection as well as your intellect and the mind-body-spirit complex. One YouTuber that we do get notifications from, that is certainly somebody that is sharing Starseed Lightworker info. I'm really worried about their health because this person is not taking care of the body, and that's obvious, and that really can lower your resistance and ability to defend off negative attacks. It is a frequency thing, but one of the things you learn when you study Raja Yoga is the fact that it's imperative. And Raja just means royal yoga, which is kind of a combination of many different forms of yoga systems into one. It's imperative to take care of the body. It's imperative that we all detox. It's important that we all get exercise, that we get out in nature. You cannot be the best spiritual version of yourself if the body is failing. It becomes harder to think clearer. It becomes harder to have the energy. And, again, so it's a mind, body, spirit complex. So you have to take care of all of them. And so, I was debating with, do I say anything? I don't want to come across as, it's doing anything negative, and I don't want to take away their confidence. But again, you could see when people are not taking care of themselves, and we could all be hit out of the blue. I'm a perfect example of somebody that certain times in my life I thought I was bulletproof. Now I shouldn't say that, but I actually was sabotaged again back in 2017, right when I was starting this channel. I did get sabotaged by the ultimate dark forces, which lowered my ability to fend off pathogens. And this is just a reality. This world is very, very parasitic. Everything in it is about cultivating parasites. The politicians are the biggest parasites out there, because they've sold us out from day one. They didn't just sell us out. That's how they got in that position. It's because they've sold out humanity. They've sold out the planet. They've sold their souls to the system to get where they are. That old saying, the devil wants to give you anything you want, but you have to give the devil your soul. Well, that's exactly what politicians are. Or some of them are actually soulless because they're perhaps created in a lab and really aren't like us.
Yeah, some of that's pretty creepy, where they come from and what you see in their energy fields and what you don't see, and those are the things that I kind of keep an eye on is the energy aspect of it all. But it's all really, really yucky. I do feel a pull to continue to tell people what's out there, though, even though it is yucky. I think there's certain pitfalls we can avoid by understanding what's around us.
Yeah, and again, everybody shouldn't be focusing on the things that we've done wrong in the past or where we've missed the mark, so to speak. We can acknowledge that we've all done maybe not our best at certain times, and sometimes maybe we've knowingly done things we shouldn't do. But we have to look to the now, be in the moment and try to become the best version of ourselves. I don't think we could just blink away the dark matrix. I think, it takes a certain number to recognize the dark matrix for what it is. And then the dark matrix can have its tentacles cut off and they could go do what they want somewhere else. But when you look at it, I do think, again, even Christians will argue about, is it a pre-trib or a post-trib or a mid-trib rapture? Trying to escape, the mindset of trying to escape the chaos for yourself. Save your own butt, have the right ideology so you can save your own ass while everybody else suffers. That always hit me as, it just didn't resonate. Yet at the same time, really all we can actually do is work on ourselves. Wouldn't you agree? So again, try to be the very best version of yourself and, prepare for whatever's coming. Because if we're unprepared, that's what really they're counting on. They're counting for you not being prepared, not being self-sufficient. It's not just conspiracy theory, quote unquote. YouTube channels that get ostracized. It's the homesteaders. It's the people teaching survival skills. You know, it's all these channels. It's even channels that just lift up your spirit at this moment in time. You know, positive music instead of, you know, what we get out of, you know, the culture of the times.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the positivity is being squashed too, though. That's kind of problematic. But there's positivity out there. You know, sometimes you just have to look for it. And then there's the thing about you got to find the middle path. You got to weigh it out. You can't just be all negative or all positive. We got to walk that line.
So up by Reno, there was a crash of a helicopter onto a highway. Actually, this is in Sacramento. It's just crazy. We've seen so many air mishaps and sometimes on runways too. This is a medical aircraft came plummeting down onto Highway 50, which runs east from the California city until Nevada state line near Tahoe. This is again Sacramento to Tahoe area. As many as 15 bystanders rushed to the crash site to help drag victims from the ruins. There were no patients on the Reach medical helicopter, but a pilot, a nurse, and a paramedic were on board. All three members of the crew were taken to the hospital with critical injuries. 2 staff were found on the roadway. One was stuck in the wreckage of the helicopter. A resident who was on his way home from work when the tragedy struck found himself just feet away from the aircraft as it slammed into the highway. He saw the red helicopter flying close to the ground, prompting him to start filming from his car. And then it crashed into the highway. It's just odd. You know, what's really going on with all these crashes? And again, crashes even on the tarmac where different airplanes are running into each other. It's very, very odd, and something feels really off.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. I mean, my gosh, that's horrible. Those pilots, that's just awful, trying to save lives, and there they go.
Yeah, so I mean, this type of oddity keeps occurring. By the way, government shutdown hits air travel, closing a control tower, causing delays across the country. You know, so they have everything blaming on the government shutdown. That's why they shut down the you know, the Mars satellites and stuff. That's why NASA doesn't have the money to keep that going, because of the government shutdown.
How convenient.
Yeah, it's perfectly convenient. Think about the timing. You know, it's just everything is so completely orchestrated. I really don't know how people could not see it unless they're just so busy in their own minds. And again, this is what a zombie apocalypse looks like. You know, it's just people that are clueless and, you know, maybe don't even have the capacity to understand what's happening all around them. So here we go. Russia mocks Donald Trump's America. Civil war is coming in the U.S. A Russian lawmaker said we should take advantage of their existing differences. We should drive them not only to an economic shutdown, but a political one. Remember, you know, the sanctions put on Russia by the U.S. because of the Ukrainian war and Ukrainian situation. There are ties between Ukraine and the Middle East, in case you didn't know. I know you guys probably are aware of that. Lots of ties that we could go into in a different video or live. So, you know, when the U.S. put sanctions on Russia, the thing that you would be thinking about is drive them into, you know, into coming to some sort of agreement, because of giving, you know, another level of economic difficulty in the country, to where pressure from citizens and stuff, you know, becomes overwhelming, and force them to come to the table and maybe accept a deal. But here it's the opposite. So now it's a Russian lawmaker saying that, you know, what's happening in the U.S. is going to lead to a civil war, perhaps, and also perhaps economic shutdown. There is definitely an economic game of chicken ongoing. But the reality is, people know at certain levels, just like I don't think every politician, I don't think every member of Congress understands the ultra-terrestrial reality. There's probably, maybe the majority don't have a clue because, it's only certain ones that get, brought into the loop on what's really going on. Just like the vast majority of Masons, they're just doing it to have a fraternity, to have, a fellowship, and many of them mean well. I've known them that mean very well.
I had an uncle. That was part of that, and he was my favorite uncle. He was such a good guy. I mean, they did, they gathered town people together, and they donated, and they did things for the town, and they went out of their way, and they did things for veterans, and they held food drives and donations for people whose houses burned down. I mean, he was the best person, but he's at a lower level. But he did good. He did so much good. Great guy.
Yeah, absolutely. This is really truly the time when those that are on the ascension path are awakening to all new possibilities. It really is the last gasp. It's again, it's taking the last cards from the Illuminati card deck, and that's what they have to play. They have to play those last cards, and then it's just done. And they know they want to salvage some for themselves to be utilized as, again, a resource, and as the Sumerian texts talk about, slaves to keep running the mines. And it's just fascinating to see that when you realize that more than 85% of Nevada and Wyoming, for instance, are completely controlled by the government. And what do you find? You find, again, pulling natural resources out of the ground, just like the Sumerian texts. Now, the Sumerian texts are given to us from the side of the victors that then do rewrite the history. So it's allowing us to know certain things that we were allowed to know in the past that now has come to the surface again, but it's still a distortion, because I do think, I wouldn't be surprised if they introduce, some Anunnaki someday and say, to the public out there, meet your, great times 1,000 grandparents. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. These are, or even these are your creators. They're not really our creators. And again, the creator of what? Just this physical body, this vehicle that we are in. That's the big thing. But he said, again, civil war is coming to America, and Russia should take full advantage of helping it brew. Meanwhile, over in Chicago, look at this from Jesse Waters. Chicago is flirting with secession. Mayor Brandon Johnson's establishing ice-free zones, saying he wants a rematch of the Civil War. Chicago PD just pulled a Benghazi and left ICE agents trapped after getting rammed by armed thugs. Yeah, there was literally conversations being had by dispatch and various people in the Chicago PD, in which officers were dispatched to go help and then told to stand down and don't respond. So, again, this is all about creating that Civil War condition right before or right at the start of World War III, when the U.S., will get attacked by the BRICS nations. And that might be preceded by the EU attacking Russia, for all we know. Exactly how it breaks out, I think they use AI, and, the AI that we're getting now, it's their AI. So to trust AI is just insanity in these times. And plus, Grok and Chat, we just know from Vedic astrology, they don't know what they're talking about. If they're fed with wrong information, they're going to give wrong information back out. Or if they're fed with disinformation, that's all you're going to get is disinformation. it is good for certain things, but always, never take it that that's the absolute truth. And there's a
No.
ton of people out there that I see on everything. When they question it, they're on X saying, "Hey, Grok, is this true?" And if Grok tells them it's true, they believe it.
Yeah.
How stupid can you be?
Well, and keep in mind, it's programmed to kind of give you what you want to hear. So it's like that friend that only gives you the positive information, even if there's toilet paper hanging out your pants and you're walking down the hallway embarrassing yourself. They're not going to tell you the hard stuff that you need to hear. And sometimes we need to hear the hard stuff. That's just part of life.
Yeah, I would just, say don't trust any AI, period. You could utilize it, but utilize it cautiously and, don't give it final authority. That's just insanity. Here we go. Now we're not going to trust MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News, Washington Post, but we're going to trust Grok or we're going to trust Chat. It's the same thing ultimately.
Now you have to already know what it is you're looking for and know the answer before anything like that is safe to use. That's just what I've seen. To me, that's the safe. If you're going to use it, you need to already know your answers. And then why use it if you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, this is just to be expected. So, you got a lot of craziness going on. This is where we need to be very, very not fearful, but again, dot your I's, cross your T's, make your plans, recognize that things are getting a little bit more dangerous in certain places. As you see too, cartels are putting $10,000 bounties on ICE agents. Yeah, there's even more than that going on. Meanwhile, the legal battle rages over National Guard deployments to 5 states. 5 different states there's going to be National Guard coming to, and the legal battles are going on. And, the precedent has been put out there, the statements have been put out there, that corrupted judges will have to be removed. Well, don't stop with the judges. The entire system on planet Earth needs to be removed. That's, of course, the big reveal, and that is truly it. There's no government that necessarily loves you. They're all oligarchs. They're all elites, whether we're talking Xi and Putin or anybody, the left and the right here in the U.S. Again, we just saw that if you have $2 million, you're in the sub-echelon of, elitehood, so to speak. The reality is there's still many people surviving when we get outside of the Western world. There's most of the world's not surviving on more than $10,000 US a year when you get outside of the Western world. And now certainly not Dubai and some of the Middle Eastern countries with a lot of cash or gold. And then, of course, in Asia, Putin made a statement saying Asia is the future. The Western world is in decline. The Western civilization is collapsing. Asia is the future. He just said that last week. He gave a 4-hour speech, which he does. He goes into great detail in his speeches, and it's not all about, he does a better job, in my opinion, of necessarily explaining things, as opposed to just, ego, aggrandizing the ego in some cases that we see here in the West, or just giving, again, that pre-programmed party speech. At least he talks a little bit clearer. But he is no angel. He's KGB. He's probably killed many people himself, again, or certainly ordered the death of tons. Again, none of the people in positions of power get there by being angels. It's quite the opposite.
Mm-hmm. That's right. It's quite the opposite.
So, yeah, Portland, we're talking Chicago, Memphis, Tennessee, another one, Washington. These are tense times. They're very, very tense. And then here in Mexico, this post is saying Mexico's a no-go right now for Americans. If you want to go take a vacation, maybe not, go to Puerto Vallarta, maybe not go to Cozumel or Cancun. Certainly be careful going to Tijuana, Los Cabos. You just be extra cautious. It's just incredible. Do you know over 1,100 people, and just to speak about, crazy vacation stats and figures, over 1,100 people have gone missing in the Grand Canyon. So that's here in the U.S. just since we started this YouTube channel. Since 2018, we started the YouTube channel in 2017. Over 1,100 people are missing in the Grand Canyon. That's mind-blowing.
Just the Grand Canyon.
Just the Grand Canyon.
Mm-hmm. That's huge. I mean, that's a lot of people. And, I was watching this, the cartels now going for Americans. When you start to mess with somebody's money supply, bad things are going to happen. So definitely be careful out there.
Especially that, people that would kill people for money. Those are not people with any sense of morals, at all. So, anything is possible with them. So, again, be very careful. There's been all sorts of problems throughout the years. Now is not the time to put ourselves in extra danger. And many people guess this would be one of the next things that happens. Trump is going to speak to the DOJ about pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell. Pardoning, yeah. I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's so obvious that it's almost kind of laughable that it's just easy to predict all these things. Speaking of predictions, this was my video that I first uploaded December of 2017. And in it, I shared again that 8 years ago that what I had gotten as a vision as a kid, literally it started in my senior year of high school, and that kept going on through all my life. But in the beginning, from 17 to around 20, I was getting these visions, included what looked to me like an alien invasion that was terrifying, and the U.S. invaded by China and Russia as World War III was starting. And so I also talked about, and I've mentioned this video so many times, they say it's only got 2.3 thousand views, but I think it's probably at least 10 times that, if not 100 times that. I saw troops coming in and getting lowered into the U.S. They were coming up from Cuba into Florida, and I did feel that they were also coming over the border with Mexico and also down from Canada. And, I was hoping that we're not on that timeline again. I was hoping that timelines would have changed. I think the intensity and duration will change. But I think there are some events that kind of have to happen. And I shared how I didn't understand what I was seeing with drones, but just that every single thing we did was literally going to be monitored by drones. And now I've even seen some videos coming out of drones that I remember from back when I first had the visions. So, I just wanted to share that with you guys. And we've been talking about for years about the fact that they have planned a civil war in the U.S., and that's when we get invaded. And, again, I think this is kind of like our last call to stop that before they trigger that. And the only way we could really stop that is, again, by sharing with others. And, yeah, sometimes it's hard to talk to people about things like, did you hear about the DEA GEL numbers? Well, this video, again, is showing those numbers. And, this was 2017 when they said the population of America in 2025 is going to go down to 99 million. We have 340 million. 340 million. How could it possibly go down to 99 million? That's just insane. And in fact, it's all the NATO nations that have massive declines and countries that are aligned with NATO. Again, that would look to be some sort of massive preemptive strike on the U.S. and the NATO countries. So, we've shared all this, and, this is showing world population in 2024. There's so much that we've gone over the years. Well, we're at that time, guys. There's only, October, what's left? We're already a week done. November and December. If we could, again, just blast our plans by waking up people, then, maybe we don't have to go through that, but those are cards that they have to play. If you can't see what's, the writing on the wall, silver is almost at $50. Gold is at just about, or it is, $4,000 an ounce. Yeah, they are going to dump the financial systems. Already, the dollar has dropped drastically in its value in just the last year. And it is all relative. They plan on doing all this at one time. So we really might be faced with civil war, world war, economic collapse, and some sort of plague upon the land, all happening at once. And the Polish psychic keeps coming back to them having November 18th, the middle of November, as a key date to have something started by. And when he feels into that, he feels economically, and he does feel conflict-wise. So, just, again, it's kind of like just recognize the situation, maybe stock up a little, have backups to your backups, be as prepared as possible. Because even if it doesn't look like there's massive inflation, there is big devaluation underway. But yet, gold is going up, silver is going up, Bitcoin actually hit its all-time high recently. So we know what they want to do. Ultimately, the banking system would like CBDCs and nothing else attached to a chip somewhere, either, again, on your hand or in your arm, something along those lines. Makes it a lot easier, they'll say. Convenience. You'll never have to worry about leaving home without it.
Oh, I know. They don't want to inconvenience anyone with packing their phone around when you can just insert something into your arm, or have just tell your door to open and have voice recognition or your eyeball scanned. Fun stuff like that. Robbie
says the next 3 moons are 3 full moons are super moons. That's really notable as well. Absolutely. It's just pretty wild. Okay, catch this. Germany's pension and social security system is on the verge of collapse. Germany has been proposing raising the retirement age to 73 to prevent the collapse of the pension system. Chancellor Merz said Germany can't afford the current social security system. People will need to pay more from their income. Are you crazy? 73. The average life expectancy in the U.S. is like 78 now, or 79, and I don't think that's even accurate. I'm not sure about that. I think the numbers are not including an awful lot of people that are leaving very young, because we had seen it declining rapidly, and we just know from talking to the local doctors, and we do have several doctors that are regulars, that we talk to all the time. There is a massive cancer epidemic. There's so many people leaving early right now. So you're basically never going to hit retirement age, or if you do, maybe it's going to be there for a year or two, and then you're gone. So why don't we just cut back? Nobody besides these idiots that are in charge wants World War III. They keep raising the amount that's spent on military and war. The one thing that Trump did is he changed the Department of Defense into Department of War. I take from that you're just stating it for what it is. Because it ain't defense. It's not in our defense. It's just war. It's just death. Why don't you change it to Department of Depopulation? Then you'll be talking even more truthful.
Then at least they're being, what do they call it? Transparent?
Yeah, change it to simply Depopulation Department. And, again, especially for the people of Europe, too. because they're already planning on drafting everybody up to 60 at some point in time. It's like you guys got a little bit of time to wake up and get rid of the furor of this age. As you can see right here, that really looks kind of natural, doesn't it? Yeah, here you have Polish member of parliament, Ua. I'm gonna just say Ua. You're looking at her name there. Talking to Ursula. If you want to fight for Ukraine, send your husband and adult sons to the front. She says, Trump is laughing at us. You're pushing us into conflict. Absolutely they are. Because they know, at some point the European citizens are going to raise up. And Ursula, might end up like Mussolini eventually. So this is why they want to force everybody to go. And again, all defense departments everywhere, why don't we just say they're depopulation programs? Because that's what they are. And, again, simply in Europe, eliminate the EU, eliminate NATO. Would Putin and Xi attack us? They still might, again, you never know. But I think also you're going to have people eventually rising up in Russia and China too. And, it's just what the system does is they do love to see a good revolution. As long as they're controlling the puppets that are going to lead what happens after the revolution. The new government's controlled by the old government effectively, then it just simply is an act of depopulation.
Yeah, I love the picture there with her mustache there. That's kind of cute. That's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there's been an awful lot of politicians dropping. Like, don't forget that the president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, she got her position after, what was it, 60 possible other people that might have run or were thinking about running met with accidents or bullets. Yeah, there's been an awful lot of politicians being attacked. And here you have the mayor of Herdecke in Western Germany, Iris Stalzer, is in critical condition after being stabbed by several men in a broad daylight attack outside her home. Now, were these maybe some illegals or were they people on a mission? And I didn't get a chance to research anything that she's done geopolitically, so I don't know what her stances are. But there's been so many of them. It's just crazy. I mean, gosh, what country were we talking about that? I forget how many leaders. I mean, it's just like a Russian roulette going on with perhaps, some of the opposing leadership. And then in South Carolina, down by Charleston, I think it was Edisto Beach, beautiful area, been through there so many times. They're making it look like maybe the right struck the left there as the home, again, of, I think that was the mayor. And I'd have to look it up again. We did spoke about it, but we have so much that we're always going on. Blew up with her family in there. She was like off walking the beach, but the rest of her family was in the house. Mm-hmm. And it was a mansion, it's like 1 point something million. I know that's not what a lot of people would call a mansion these days, but regardless, it just seems that it's getting very, very bloodthirsty out there in political circles.
Yeah, it's getting to be quite the mess.
And here we have Ursula. She's trimmed her mustache. Unelected EU chief, and of course, member of the few. She says the digital euro will make it easier for companies and consumers. We will make it easier to control your spending, track every transaction, phase out cash. You'll own nothing. You'll get a social credit score. And, if you speak up against the fact that she has 7 houses and has made tens of hundreds of millions, actually her husband is worth way more than she's worth. But when you look at it, it's just one hand washes the other. You can't get any more elitist than this. I think breaking up the EU would be one of the best things. Break up the UN. it has to be broken into smaller components before we could start to really make effective, efficient change. Viktor Orban, he has spoken up a lot against war. He's prime minister of Hungary, and he doesn't want anything to do with the Ukraine war at all. And you know, he gets really ostracized, and the EU leadership makes it out like he's some sort of atrocity himself when he's just looking to keep things peaceful. And it is exposing the warmongering that's going on because, again, what do they have left that they could possibly do? Another plague upon the land, World War III, and then the alien card. Don't forget asteroids coming in at any point in time. There's been a lot of prophecies of major asteroid strikes, which, again, we understand the idea and concept of a tractor beam. And if you have one or two Starlink satellites coming down every day, I wonder, is there anybody ever shooting those down? So much is being exposed right now. It's really a fascinating time. If you are not, if you're not weak in the stomach, it is a fascinating time to watch all this happen. The American Civil War, engineered by the Red Shields and the banking elite, of course, because they were able to create the Banking Act of 1871, and then you had Woodrow Wilson, which ended up giving us the Federal Reserve whole fiasco. And what you see is the fact that they work both sides. They make money off of both sides, and they even make money off of both sides when you really look at it. Not just the war machine. Look to Henry Ford. I had videos taken down by YT talking about Henry Ford's ties to the NAZI, but also the fact that, Ford as a company was also playing more than one side of the field and making money off of death and destruction, because this is what they do. When you look to, again, the Civil War, there's way more to that. And I don't know all the details on that. All I know is that I don't know the details. I know what the history books say, but I know that's not really accurate. I think there's other aspects, Tartarian aspects, that are involved in this too, which we've been working on, trying to do some research. Jared Boosters, John Levy, Lucius Aurelian, they come to mind right away as people that have done a lot of deep dives into what's really going on in that. Jared Boosters and Lucius Aurelian especially, looking into things like what's really going on with the Civil War. How about the Napoleonic Wars? Do you recognize the depopulation that Europe went through between 1800 and 1900? Non-stop. The wars were non-stop. They were massive scale. Again, there's been war ongoing on planet Earth for the last pretty much 6,000 years non-stop.
Yeah, it's what they do. It keeps them going. It keeps them fed on several different levels too. That's the creepy part to me.
Michelle Gibson, Robbie is saying, is good too. Yes, and I don't think we're subscribed to her. But this is saying the Rothschilds used a divide and conquer strategy, take back America by creating a conflict between the North and the South. The North was to be a British colony annexed to Canada and under control of Lionel Rothschild. The South was to be a French colony given to Napoleon III of France under the control of James Rothschild. It says Abraham Lincoln opposed this by issuing the greenback to defund its defense against the international backers and was assassinated. I think it's fascinating that we have RFK Jr. in there right now. And of course, his dad and his uncle were both assassinated. It is fascinating. Do you know also, there was so much into this, the idea of even Texas being its own country. And even also, there's just so much. I have to put some of my thoughts together because it just leads down all different rabbit holes. I think what we have is also even though there's ultimately one system that really the only goal of the system is keeping the frequency low and the population limited on planet Earth. What you have underneath that system is a lot of beings with huge ego and incredible greed that differ in their thoughts on how that's going to be done. And so, there are opposing plans, and, I don't think it's all, happiness and camaraderie over on Team Dark Matrix at all.
No, I think their idea of balance is to step on the very top and squish.
Yeah, and they all want to be the chief dog. That's the thing. They all have huge egos. So again, anytime somebody, is always coming out there and, just giving you everything that's so obviously ego boosting and, playing to the ego is one of the things they do the best. So again, what we need to do is to do the opposite, like with the law of one. It talks about service to self and service to others. When you're up at 5D and above, there's just this different way to view things. And, we're in the process of getting ourselves up and out of what really truly is the hellish realms. The lower fourth density is exactly like, if you ever read into some of the texts that the Buddhist monks have put down in regards to explorations through the astral realms, it's just fascinating because, these beings that control and manipulate us, they're just outside of the visible spectrum. But now they're coming into visibility for a lot of them are. And because of the ascension path, you got to kind of go right through their territory. And, there's more than one reason why we don't see those that we call the Anunnaki or those that came from Nibiru and others in the Kali Yuga. It's because we've actually dropped down below that frequency, but we're going to have to climb back up through, so to speak. And so it literally brings kind of hell to earth, and that's what we've been going through at this point. But at the same time, it exposes everything. And it's just a matter of, recognizing that and keeping our frequency high. And it's a delicate dance. It really is, guys, because I know there's a lot of you out there that, don't want to see any of the news, and it's understandable. We should unplug as much as we can. And we should root and ground ourselves to nature and really unplug ourselves from the frequency of all our technology as often as you can. It's obviously not possible for everybody to do that because how are you going to pay your bills? Mm-hmm. That's the thing. The hook is the monetary system. And it's parasitic, and again, it's loaded with middlemen and bankers. And, again, the insurance industry, for instance, is an insane industry when you really think about it. They make money off of everything, not just the war machine. They also make money off of, when the soldiers come back and need a prosthesis, you need to go into the healthcare system. You have PTSD. They end up putting you on different medications to control your anxiety and depression. And then that hooks you in even more, and that lowers the frequencies even more. It is an a diabolical, ingenious system that we find ourselves in. But it's being exposed.
It is being exposed. Things are being opened up. People are realizing that, the way out is going within.
Absolutely. Now, there's more than one report saying Iran has abolished the mandatory hijab, again, the head covering. When you look to Iran in the 70s, and before that, it was a Western society. It really was, and then, of course, you have the very, very fundamentalist Islam that pops in, and it's not for everybody. And I really do think, even though Islam is the fastest growing religion on the planet, that's what they tell us. But I would say maybe the fastest growing mindset is people that are spiritual, but not necessarily organized religious. And that's one of the keys, because this is one of the very, very most primary tools that they give us. Because again, if we believe that, and you're going to go to paradise if you do an atrocious act, it works on people that don't understand things, and it has worked throughout history, and it's horrible. Yeah, but that's a good sign that people are waking up. But wake up into a decadent society, it's again, we have to not get ourselves trapped in another new box when we escape the other box. You find yourself out of the box, and then you go into another box. We see it all the time with take people that have gotten arrested or had substance abuse, and then they find Jesus, etc. It gets them out of one box, but then they're still in another box. And of course, Yeshua Jesus, the real Yeshua Jesus, do you really think we'd have his true teachings, be the dominant religion on the planet? I don't think so, not when we have a dark matrix in control.
I know, and I just love this bird. He is having such a good time with his rings. He's going to bring home dinner, I have a feeling.
Absolutely. As always, guys, we are so grateful for you guys. There is a chance that we might end up going live on EEARTS later in the day today, time allowing and energy allowing. But if not, there will be another video up on EEARTS too. We're doing our best because we kind of feel like there's going to be an interruption at some point. And that interruption might last a while, and life might not be exactly the same after that interruption. So it feels like it's very important to have everybody as prepared as possible. Prepared, but not scared.
Right, indeed.
And we give you guys thanks. And wow, we're at 111 watching. That's a great number. It's
most appropriate.
Good place right now.
Yes.
May you all be blessed and kept safe and sound. Loka samasta sukhi no bhavantu. That means may all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may my thoughts, actions, and deeds contribute to that. Because if we are doing our very best to awaken everybody for the benefit of everybody, what could possibly be wrong in that?
Indeed. Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.